Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Toronto. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Jacob Van Luden. JVL, we've got a nice little semifinal lined up for you here. We're going to start with the one that's already underway. We'll jump over to the Brad Nelson and Lucas Siao match after it going, but for now we've got Edgar Megalesh, and he's playing against Mark Jacobson. Mark's on Bant Megamorph, a deck that really has kind of broken out here at this tournament. We have 25 Den Protectors in our top 8 coming in here.
Yeah,
in fact, Edgar's the only one,
player.
not playing him. Now, Brad doesn't have him in the main deck, but he is also here. You can see Edgar fires off a Thoughtseize to take away Dragonlord Ojutai from Jacobson.
Looks like some brutal mulligans
on
Jacobson's
does look
end of things.
Pretty bad, yeah. So he's got another copy of Dragonlord Ojutai, but he's pretty far away from actually casting it due to mana restriction here. He's just cast a face-up Den Protector to start getting his beat down on. Yeah. Temple of Plenty could get him to that land even sooner.
I could just find something like a Deathness Raptor also, you
Sure.
never know.
Yeah, start developing his board out.
Now this matchup, in this situation, obviously, Mark has taken a lot of mulligans and is therefore going to be at a huge disadvantage. He's going to need some tight draws to get out of it. But generally speaking, I think the card we're really, really excited to see here is Stormbreath Dragon. Stormbreath Dragon is a nightmare for Mark Jacobson. And
yeah, you know, one of Mark's teammates, I had a chance to interview him earlier, Ben Whites. He said that his deck is really, really, really soft to Stormbreath Dragon. Okay, let's jump over to the Brad Nelson, Lucas Siao. We're of course going to keep you updated on all the doings here, but I want to get the early stages of this matchup here as we see Lucas Siao firing off. Looks like a Thoughtseize on Brad Nelson here on Lucas's first turn of the game.
And it looks like Brad has a pair of Abzan Charms there, a Rakshasa Death Dealer, a Thoughtseize of his own, and a Siege Rhino in addition to a few lands.
Yeah, Lucas Siao is on the play here as the number 5 seed. Brad was last seed at number 8. He drew in the last round. He said he felt like he was 98% to make the top 8, and he got in easily. He was tied with 2 other players at the same match point total, but yeah, but it wasn't close. He had like a 3% edge on opponent match wins percentage, so he got in pretty easily.
Yeah, when you start 10-0, you generally get that luxury.
Exactly. So it looks like Rakshasa Death Dealer is going to be what Lucas Siao takes with the Thoughtseize there.
Yeah, generally it was a decision between Thoughtseize and Rakshasa Death Dealer. You really want to take the wind out of Brad's sails because if the game goes longer, Lucas's deck is better set up for that because he has those main deck Den Protectors. So, I mean, by taking something like Death Dealer, he assures that Brad's not really going to be applying any early pressure on him, and then he can work the game to the point where he's looping removal spells where Brad cannot. It's also worth noting that Lucas has main deck Elspeth, where Brad does not. Brad, however, does have Wingate Rock, which matches up pretty nicely against the Elspeth.
Okay. Brad's still in the tank here about what to take with Thoughtseize. You can see his options over there on the right. Courser, Crewfix, Hero's Downfall, Siege Rhino, Abzan Charmer, Courser, Crewfix. No extra lands there for Lucas, but he is stacked up on spells. It's going to be Abzan Charm that Brad Nelson takes as he hits his second land drop here, and he's going to scry something to the bottom of his deck. Is there a land on top here for Lucas? No, but there is another Thoughtseize, so he's going to really mess up Brad's plans here, at least in the early stages. Though this matches up pretty nicely. A pair of Abzan Charms for Brad Nelson means that he can recover from getting Thoughtseize pretty easily. Ooh, on Offense of the Foremost off the top. Remember, he bottomed that last card. So that's a nice rip there for Brad Nelson as he's going to be able to start applying pressure immediately on Lucas Siao, who doesn't seem to be able to find that third land yet. He just drew his card for the turn. Let's see if he finds it here. Yes, he does, and it's untapped. So Courser of Crewfix is going to reveal, yes, even more lands in Urborg. So things going on track now for Lucas Siao, but bang, take 4. It's a quarter of his remaining life total, and of course the Siege Rhino to follow up means that Lucas Siao's life total plummets down to 9. And in fact, he's facing lethal damage next turn as the board sits. So, ouch.
Yeah.
Brad Nelson turned that corner pretty nicely here.
Now, interesting to note that Lucas, still does not have white mana here. So, in addition to needing to draw additional lands, they need to be white if he really wants to work his way out of this.
Okay, well, Siege Rhino was a hero, is now fallen. but on offensive the foremost is still ready to rumble.
She's the real hero.
She is right here as Lucas is falling down to 6 life just. Randy, you got an update for us?
Yeah, Edgar Megalange with his Mardu Dragon stack, just Stormbreath Dragon. Mark Jacobson's kind of, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. Oh, here's the second Stormbreath Dragon. Jacobson just shrugs and scoops him up. So
he can't even beat one, I don't think.
No, I don't think he could beat one.
Yeah.
The second one was just ridiculous. So
Especially in a mulligan to 5.
Megalange, up a game.
Megalange. I got to remember that one. All right, back to our main match here, though. Lucas Yeo again down to 6 life as Brad Nelson's hoping to reload with Obzon Charm. He found a Sorin Solemn Visitor there.
Oof.
And I believe a Siege Rhino. So
Looking
success as far as reloading goes. He's got a clean attack here as well, though I think he does know about the Bile Blight that Lucas Yeo drew off the top of his deck there, so may not want to send in with Anafenza.
Well, I mean, if he does have a removal spell, he could send with the Anafenza, and then when Lucas goes for the, I guess Lucas will go for the Bile Blight first. Well, I guess he gets the 2-for-1, right? Because he gets to use the removal spell on the Courser and also get the Bile Blight.
How do you mean?
Well, if he attacks with Anafenza, and then
Lucas
Lucas tries
just
to
blocks.
use the Bile Blight and the Courser, then
He'll just block, right? Lucas will just be like, block.
what if he attacks with the Anafenza? Not necessarily. Like, there are a lot of different things that could happen. You know, like if he he's obviously attacking with the Anafenza. You know.
Well, if he knows that Lucas has Bile Blight and he doesn't have a removal spell, then probably wouldn't. Right? You can make it so that Lucas's Bile Blight gets stuck in his hand. All right, so there's Siege Rhino to come down, and that's going to drop Lucas Yeo all the way down to 3 life here. Brad's got a couple of cards left in his hand and a couple of mana up as well. And he's just going to pass the turn back to Lucas here, who finds on top of his library a Llanowar Waste.
Still no white mana though, so.
Yeah.
Does have this Thoughtseize, but now, you know, he's only at 3. So, Thoughtseize not necessarily the card you want to be casting when your life total's that low.
Brad Nelson has set up lethal. Again, though, the Bile Blight kind of throwing a wrench in the works here for Brad.
They did find the removal spell now, so now.
Well, but now there's another Courser that he has to deal with. So he can remove one, attack with both, he can get chumped, and then the Bile Blight can shrink down the other and keep Lucas alive. Also, Lucas is now at 5.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to win the game this turn, but
No.
he at least, but he wins the game this turn. You know, the game's not over, but he wins.
Yeah, he's also got other spells in hand, too. Okay. So this way, Lucas Yeo would fall down to just 1, a card like another Obzon Charm would do it here for Brad. He could just kill Lucas. Dromica's Command would do it.
Yeah. Lots of cards that do it here.
Yeah. But instead, I think it's going to be Hero's Downfall on one of the Coursers. That lets Brad keep his Siege Rhino alive, still get Lucas down to 1, and still have 2 lethal threats. Make that 3 lethal threats.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really nice because they're, you know, Brad picks up a Courser Prefix and a Bile Blight for a single card, just a Hero's Downfall. Nice advantage for him. And he continues applying this pressure and
Still no white
puts-
mana here, right, for Xiao?
Yeah, and I don't think Xiao, oh yeah, he's going to kill himself with Thoughtseize. So.
He's going to kill himself with Thoughtseize, and he does get, for his troubles, he gets to see another great card in Brad Nelson's hand. It was that Sorin that he drew with the Obzon Charm earlier. All right, so Brad Nelson, 1 game away from the finals here.
Yeah, I mean, through 2 very difficult matchups. I mean, there Lucas, you know, had some significant mana problems.
Yes.
That was, you know, Lucas' deck lost to itself there, by all accounts. But pretty amazing that Brad was able to overcome Abzan Megamorph, his absolute worst matchup, and now he's up a game against Abzan Midrange, which also just seems nightmarish.
Nightmares, right? It's that classic 1 step slower thing that we like to talk about with these
Yeah.
decks, right? And he's exactly
Absolutely.
1 step slower than Brad. He might be 2 steps slower, but
Post-board it gets a little better, but post-board their decks look pretty similar. I think the major difference post-board is that Lucas will, you know, have some of them are Planeswalkers, I guess.
So are both shuffling right now? Maybe we can, yeah, it looks like they're both in between games. All right, the deck lists are on the table here.
Got to decide how they want to sideboard here. I feel like, you know, Lucas's sideboard seems really good. Lucas, I'd spoken to him earlier when he was eating lunch, and he said to me that this is the most confident he has ever felt with a constructed deck coming into a game.
See how said that?
Which, I mean, he's played a lot of Grand Prix.
Yeah, he sure has.
He's been around for a while, so that's a pretty big statement for him. And, I mean, here he is in the top 4 of the Grand Prix. That's pretty impressive. And his friend, who he gave the deck to, Daniel Fournier. Daniel Fournier obviously has been working on Abzan for the past however many months, since Abzan was a thing.
What, is he like an
Fournier
Abzan specialist or something?
Yes. So Daniel Fournier has been playing that deck for a very long time now. But Lucas and he have been working on this list together, and Daniel Fournier changed 2 cards from Lucas's list, and Lucas was convinced that Daniel had made the deck decisively worse in doing so. But then Daniel had locked himself up for top 8, and Lucas was still playing for it. And Lucas said, this always happens. Somebody changes my deck and makes it worse, and they make top 8. And here he is, and he's still in the top 4. So it's nice that
this is justice.
he gets to know that it's not all for naught.
All right, so let's jump over to our cool. This is a new kid on the block here, the Mardu mid-range deck. This is the one that Ben Stark played, and he had some success in this tournament too, though he didn't quite make top 8.
Pretty awesome deck. Stormbreath Dragon, super well positioned for this top 8.
So this is Edgar Megalange, and yeah, this deck looks sweet. You know, I definitely heard a lot of people talking before the tournament about how nice it would be to play Crackling Doom, you know, against the Esper Dragons.
Yeah, it's so good against Dragonlord Uchitai, so good against Silumgar the Drifting Death. It's, you know, a foul tongue invocation, but instead of getting 4, you're dealing them 2, and you also always get their best creature. Not necessarily their best creature, but you always get the biggest one.
Right, which is so often their best creature.
Usually.
What do we have for left?
Yeah, it just seems really, really strong against the majority of the fields.
Yeah,
it's
now,
interesting.
In this case, it's mitigated. You can see that there's a Crackling Doom in the graveyard, and opposing side, you can see that there's not the ideal card to have in your opponent's graveyard, but it'll do the Deathness Raptor. At least it gets it off the table.
And I mean, it also is going to trigger the prowess and the Seeker of the Way, allowing Edgar to gain a little bit of life, while also, you know, dealing a little bit of extra damage. And that matters a lot in a matchup like this, because Edgar, he's going to deal a lot of incidental damage. We watched Ben play, and in doing so, you know, just those little extra chips that he does, those are going to add up quickly. And a lot of the time, Mark, even if he's able to set up this Den Protector, Death Mist Raptor loop, he might just find himself dead in the air of the dragons anyway. So, pretty important to apply early pressure like that.
All right, let's jump back over. Not a lot going on here in the early stages of this game. Edgar's up a game, but they are back underway on our main match, so we're going to follow that one to the end, and then we'll check back over on these gentlemen. So here we go. Brad Nelson versus Lucas Siao. Brad takes game 1, looking to try to pick up a GP victory here.
And Den Protector immediately trumped there by Fleecemane Lion.
Turn 2 Den Protector from Lucas, huh?
I mean, he's on the play. You really want to, I think he understands that his deck is slightly slower, that when the game goes longer, it certainly favors him. So if he doesn't have anything better to do with his mana on turn 2, it's probably worth it to just put that out there and have something to trade with, have something to attack back with. You know, don't let Brad just get to do stuff without being punished at all for it.
Yeah, I wish the Den Protector did a better job of punishing Brad's plays, though it really doesn't tussle with his creatures at all.
Oh, definitely not.
I mean, these are his 2 drops, and neither of them go up against Den Protector, and it doesn't get any better when you go up the chain either.
I mean, he's going to be attacking with the Den Protector this turn.
It's true.
Which, you know,
I don't know if that's what Lucas wants to do, but he certainly has to here.
It would otherwise be stranded in his hand, though.
It's true.
So I don't think he's going to have time to loop a Den Protector against that type of start from Abzan aggro.
Okay. So We're back on Lucas Siao's turn. He's resolved read the bones and taken a couple of hits already from his lands and from the Fleecemane Lion. But our old friend the Siege Rhino has arrived to help even things up and change these life totals back in a closer race here. In fact, put Lucas Siao ahead. And there's Thoughtseize now from Brad Nelson. Can he hit a key spell here? Sort of. His choices are Hero's Downfall, Courser of Crewfix, Den Protector.
Yeah, and I mean, he has a lot of good options here. Like, obviously, if he feels that this game is going to go long, it's going to be about trading cards, then taking Den Protector is likely the best choice. If he feels that this game is going to come down to aggression and the ability to, you know, get out faster than the opponent, then he would likely want to take Hero's Downfall. If he feels that, you know, Courser of Crewfix matches up well against the cards in his hand or can provide Lucas with a long-term plan that he needs to win the game, like if he thinks Lucas needs a lot of mana, then he would take that. And the real choice is between Downfall and Den Protector here.
All right, well, we'll see what Brad Nelson decides here. He is working through, you know, he's got to take a look at his hand and how he sees this game playing out before he can really make that decision, and that's what he's doing right now. And it was Den Protector that Brad Nelson chose with his Thoughtseize, so that is not going to be coming back. Remember, the other Den Protectors already face up here, and bang, there goes Abzan Charm taking down Siege Rhino and clearing the way for Fleecemane Lion to get in for an attack for 3. Lucas does take it here.
Attention players in two-headed
He saves himself a little bit of damage by preventing the Rakshasa from attacking with Den Protector. Now his choice of whether or not he wants to send for 2, and that'll put Brad at 9, which is definitely a relevant number considering that he's about to play Siege Rhino. So.
Wow, Siege Rhino number 2 hits the board for Lucas Siao, and sometimes it does just come down to that, right? I mean, we've seen these matches play out with these Abzan decks where it's like somebody draws 3 Siege Rhinos and it kind of doesn't matter what their opponent's doing. Right now, Lucas just played a Scryland and immediately put a card back on top of his library too. Could absolutely be another Siege Rhino. I see that Brad in his hand though. He's got Wingmate Rock. I don't know if he's got the 5th land.
Yeah, the attacks here with his Death Dealer, I don't think he's going to induce a block because he can obviously just pump and eat the Siege Rhino, which
make it a 6/6. Wow, triple Fleecemane Lion. Lucas Siao's never wanted to see a Bile Blight more in his whole life. See what he draws for the turn. He put it back on top. It was actually an Abzan Charm that he wanted to draw. This is a bold move by Brad Nelson.
He's been a 4 also, which means, you know,
he just needs the shields to be up. Okay, Courser Crewfix does find a land. It's a tap land though, Temple of Malady. Ooh, and there's a Crux of Fate seated on top of the library there for Lucas. Does feel like he isn't super incentivized to sweep the board, but those Fleecemanes are threatening. If they start going monstrous once a turn, well, that Crux of Fate gets a lot worse.
The major issue though is like right now, it's kind of just breaking even if you cast a card like Crux of Fate.
All right, so Brad Nelson untaps. Does he find a land? Yeah, I think he found a Windswept Heath in there somewhere.
Now it's interesting because now Brad knows about the Crux, so it makes it much more difficult for him to pull the trigger and actually play something like Wingmate Rock here.
Yes, he's dropping down to 3 life here.
And now in Rhino range for Brad.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. And it looks like what he's done is played his land and then monstrous his Fleecemane Lion here. So Brad taking a defensive stance here. You said it, he's in Rhino range, but Lucas doesn't have one currently. But he could just be one draw step away from evening things up with Brad Nelson. There's the Bio Blight. Oh, it's going to be too late.
It will be too late.
And he could kill one lion with it if Brad wanted him to. Otherwise, Brad's going to have mana to monstrous another Fleece Mane lion. And I think Brad's just kind of saying, look, if this is the plan that you're going to have, Lucas, I'm going to start monstrosing these Fleece Mane lions and just put up an impenetrable wall.
And that's game over, I think, right? Oh, no, it's not game over.
No,
The Fleece Mane's a 4/4. I was thinking that he could just put 2 +1/+1 counters on Den Protector and attack unblockable, but...
He can't quite, but he's still going to do a lot of work this turn. Bio Blight taking down 2 of the 3.
Yeah, and now
this is
Den Protector has
lethal.
to be blocked by Sasha, and then he's the trample guy. Yep.
Well, yeah. So the deal was that Lucas's draw, as you can see, the fatigue is setting in on Lucas, and he's just like super relieved to have picked up a game there. Get it together, Lucas. A couple more to go. He also had a murderous cut there, so he was able to kill the.
He's got it no matter what.
Yeah, so he was able to kill the Death Dealer with murderous cut after Bio Blighting away the 2 lions and get in there for lethal. So Lucas Siao forces game 3. He's trying to defend his home turf here. Canadian doesn't want to let the American Brad Nelson come in here and steal a GP from him and his countrymen. So see if we can get a little fight there. Back on our other table, though,
We're making huge
We've
presumptions about Lucas Siao's nationalism here.
no, he's a proud Canadian. I've talked to him. Edgar Megalange is playing against Mark Jacobson.
And this game looks pretty even. The big thing is that we know that Edgar's deck has some big potential in this matchup. The Stormbreath Dragon is just such a blowout here.
Yeah, it sounds like game 1 was really just Edgar drew 2 Stormbreath Dragons and that kind of ended the game.
Yeah, I mean, we caught the beginning of that where Mark was on 5 cards also.
Right.
So that definitely throws a wrench in your plan.
Here's a very big wrench being thrown into Edgar's plans here. Surak, the Hunt Caller, is hit the battlefield and receive the benefits of haste and is crunching in there right now for a full 5 damage. Now Edgar can certainly take the hit at 26.
Hey, he
But
might
I
have
think
a
he's
better
going to
idea.
line up a blocks because I think he's got a Crux of Fate in his hand. No, it's Draconic Roar, it looks like.
Interesting.
Well, that's going to, presumably allow him to trade one of his Seekers for the Surak. Oh, here's Valorous Stance, though, which is going to give Surak indestructibility, and I think that Edgar must have just chump blocked there because he gained life and because his Seeker hit the bin.
Yeah, I don't think it was an intentional chump block. I think he probably blocked and then Draconic Roared and then had the Valor Stance.
Sure, I think he knew that was a possibility.
It's kind of an odd play there.
Whoa!
With the Draconic Roar.
Kolagon, the Storm's Fury, has arrived, and she is going to do a ton of damage here, though I guess with Edgar sitting at 32, things are okay. Now, it looks like Edgar did not dash Kolagon in this case. And oh, was that a Disdainful Stroke?
It was a Disdainful Stroke.
Whoa, Disdainful Stroke to take down Kolagon, so Edgar can't get anything going here. He's up a game, but...
Ooh, Den Protector is a nice one, too.
Assuming that's part of Mark's hand down there.
I imagine it was a top card of his library, and he just drew it, and now he's
left it
Courser.
revealed, and yeah, now he's going to play it face down.
And playing that face down is pretty powerful here because now you have Disdainful Stroke in your graveyard. You can just flip it up and grab that Disdainful Stroke if that's what you need for a given situation. If your opponent tries to kill your morph, then you can just flip it up and grab Valorous Stance and Valorous Stance it. Basically just the perfect card given the situation.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a toolbox feel to it in the later part of the game where you have a whole bunch of different types of spells in your graveyard anyway.
Yeah, especially in this Bant Megamorph deck where you have access to counter magic.
Yeah,
Makes
it's
it really
insane.
exciting, you know.
He's going for it right now.
Magic players in the Sunday Super Series.
He's got another Den Protector. All right, so we've seen this loop before as well.
Please finish your turn, and then there will be 5.
I imagine flipping it right now probably means that he has maybe counter magic already in hand. Because Edgar's at such a high light total that I don't think he would just be doing this for pure damage right away.
Well, speaking of damage, he is getting in there. So in comes all available attackers. They all have clean attacks through the Secret of the Way there as the board sits. So crunch, this is a lot of damage.
This is a lot of damage.
12. Even though Edgar's managed to bolster his life total all the way up to 32, it's not going to take too long if Mark Jacobson just beating down here.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen Edgar at 2-for-1. By that Valorous stance wasn't really good for him. And sometimes you make these plays where it's like, oh, well, he might get ahead in cards, but at least I'll gain this extra life if it doesn't turn out my way. And if you do that type of thing too many times, you suddenly find yourself with nothing when your opponent has a huge board. And, you know, from a baseline strategic standpoint, having more cards is always the better thing to be doing.
Okay, well, let's jump back over to our main match. We're ready for game number 3, Brad Nelson versus Lucas Siao. And they are underway. It looks like Brad has already leveled up a Warden of the First Tree and is beating down with it, though that mana investment is for naught as Hero's Downfall is going to take it down. But a nice follow-up play for Nelson. He's going to make Sorin Solemn Visitor and a 2/2 Flying Vampire. Right on time, Lucas Siao draws another copy of Hero's Downfall, so we can get rid of the Solemn Visitor now.
But it's not that good of a trade for Lucas.
Right,
I mean,
this feels 2-for-1-ish, right?
Yeah, you get that 2/2 flyer, and your opponent uses their whole turn to get rid of the Sorin off the table.
And here's a Thoughtseize now, a timely one potentially for Nelson, who's going to take a look at Siao's hand and decide what he wants to take. There's a Courser of Crufix, Dromica's Command,
And a Hero's Downfall.
another Hero's Downfall, and what's that middle card there, Jake?
Crux of Fate.
Crux of Fate, okay. Well, this is valuable information for Brad. He's going to be able to sculpt his game from here on out.
This is difficult. I mean, again, tons of options here for Brad. If he thinks that you know, he really needs to commit more cards to the board to take over quickly, then he'll probably want to take something like Crux of Fate. If he's planning on, you know, setting up to tap out for a big threat after the Crux, then he'll probably just take something like Downfall. If he has, you know, some type of enchantment, then he might want Dromica's Command. But he goes ahead and takes Courser of Crufix, which seems like it's, you know, it's the only threatening card in Lucas's hand.
He strikes right in the heart of Lucas Siao, too. You know he wanted that Courser.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is that here Brad plays a Death Dealer, which matches up very nicely against all of the reactive cards that are in Lucas's hand. And now Lucas has no way to create a board presence because the only creature that was in his hand was Courser of Crufix. So he has no Planeswalker, he has no creature, he just has, you know, Crux of Fate and Hero's Downfall, and all these cards that are just miserable against Rakshasa Death Dealer.
Yeah, Rakshasa Death Dealer does serious work, and Brad's got enough mana to Thoughtseize, cast it, and leave up Regeneration all in the same turn. And he's going to start going to town with that Death Dealer. And there is face down more for Lucas Siao.
Lucas finding a Den Protector, that's a pretty nice one here. Don't think we'd be too disappointed with that. And Brad likely just attacking with his creatures. That previous Thoughtseize. Brad writing down the cards that his opponent had in hand. That's something really wise to do. Sure, you may remember what cards are in your opponent's hand, but it's not worth it to use that brain capital. Instead, you'd rather just write those cards down, always have that information readily available for you. It's a great thing to do when you're playing competitive Magic.
Okay, both creatures hit the red zone here for Nelson. It looks like Xiao has picked up the pen, though Nelson's still deciding how much damage he'd like to deal here.
I believe I saw another copy of Sorin in Brad's hand, but I doubt that's his play because he may have just pre-combated that.
He's going to pump the Death Dealer to get in there for 6, and that's going to drop Lucas Xiao down to 11 as Lucas flips up Den Protector on end step. Brad's left 3 mana available, but he decided not to cast anything with it, at least not yet.
Seems reasonable. I mean, he certainly doesn't want to overcommit to the board and lose to the Crux of Faith that he knows is in Lucas's hand, but at the same time, he also, you know, wants to maintain a lead because he's pressuring Lucas. He's at a higher life total. Right now, his board lets him do that. Corsair drawing Lucas an extra card right off the bat, leaving him with the correct mana so that he could fire off a Hero's Downfall if need be.
Lucas is pretty stoic when he plays, and then once the match ends, you see how he really feels.
Absolutely true of Lucas.
All right, so Brad does nothing with those other mana except for leave it up for his Rakshasa Death Dealer, which he doesn't end up needing here.
And I can definitely get behind that. I mean, he wants to assure himself that he's not going to lose that Death Dealer because it's so dominant considering what's in Lucas's hand.
And back in the tank we go.
You know, again, he has a few different plays here because, you know, if he attacks with both of his guys, then he may not even have to pump. He may have to end up pumping the Death Dealer once to put Lucas into range to just die to a whole bunch of Death Dealer pumps of future turns. So he can effectively force the issue on Lucas and kind of create a pseudo Sorin emblem with his Death Dealer.
Right, where he attacks, chump block, attacks, chump block, yeah.
So Brad going to sacrifice this Windswept Teeth here. And are we going to see any sort of pump on the Death Dealer right now?
Here's the question, let's find out. See how it's got a Hero's Downfall in his hand. The Death Dealer can be regenerated through it, but it does make Brad's mana use a little bit awkward as he's got to leave up certain colors of mana, even going into Lucas Xiao's turn.
Yeah, 3 activations there means that Rakshasa Death Dealer can potentially attack for 8 here. A lot of damage.
It's a huge chunk. Lucas Xiao down to only 12. And this game has slowed a little bit in pace.
Lucas was definitely thinking about this attack already. He had a plan. Let's see what it is.
There are a few ways to deal with the Death Dealer. And you know what? Brad's not buying it here. He doesn't want to get it pumped and have the thing get killed. He's just going to play another one. Play a land and pass a turn back with Lucas Xiao falling down to 8 life. This is game 3. The winner of this will advance to the finals of the Grand Prix and be live for the win.
Yeah, and I like this play because he's leaving himself the opportunity to just kill Lucas if Lucas allows either Rakshasa Death Dealer. There you go.
Okay, so Lucas's end step play was Dromica's command to take out the Vampire. He draws Courser of Crufix for the turn. He's already got one of those down, but he also gets to reveal.
Yeah, he also has, you know, the Urborg on the top of his library, so an extra card now off this courser.
And an extra couple of life.
Yeah, which are valuable at this point.
Yeah, very much so. Lucas has fell down to 8 here.
Yeah, so these Rakshasas no longer just lethal with single attack. Lots of courser proof fixes for Lucas Yao. The excitement coursing through his veins as he works his way toward the finals of the Grand Prix. I mean, it's an interesting situation because now either Rakshasa Death Dealer no longer a lethal attacker.
Yeah, it certainly changes the math. So Brad Nelson back on his turn now. Can he find a way to punch through for 9 damage plus here?
Certainly does not seem like he can.
Lucas Yao seems to be in his element here, hiding behind 3 creatures and looking to just keep drawing cards and generating value for himself here, while Brad is trying to find a way through the labyrinth here.
And having to leave up in all this mana for Rakshasa Death Dealer has proven to be pretty detrimental to Brad's game plan here.
All right, so it's going to be Storm Solemn Visitor, though, which is going to recreate that same vampire that he had earlier.
And this time he also gets to leave up in regeneration mana for a Death Dealer.
For one of his Death Dealers. Okay, so Brad's back on board with the clock here as the 2/2 flying vampire can start chipping away at Xiao's life. Now that we see that there's a Siege Rhino sitting on top, it's going to make that more difficult. The 3 life point swing is going to matter.
Yeah, it looks like Lucas is going to start getting 3 points of life just from playing lands if he plays his 3rd courser here.
Wow.
I like this, Lucas putting Brad to a decision, the attack with Den Protector, encouraging Brad to put mana into a Rakshasa Death Dealer.
Looks like Brad's going to say okay to that. He's already blocked.
Well, he can't block until he pumps.
Yeah, he has to pump first, and I think that's what Lucas pointed out to him.
The purple arms of Rakshasa Death Dealer.
All right, so you know what? Brad's just going to let that happen. He doesn't want to open himself up to get one of his Death Dealers killed here. He just says, okay, fine, I got my value. And there's that 3rd copy of Courser of Crew Fix, and like you said a minute ago, Jake, now that's 3 life per land drop that Lucas is gaining. It's huge. I mean, that's a big chunk of life, especially in this game that's really been a close one where neither player has pulled way ahead of the other at any point here.
I mean, it's interesting because Lucas, like, at one point he was just dead to being hit by either of these Death Dealers. And then just from Courser of Crew Fixes, he's worked his life total up an additional 50% from where it was there. And now every land that he plays is going to pop him up another 3. It just seems like Brad's in a rough way.
Yeah, it does.
But,
I mean, Brad's been moving things along, but he's played very carefully here with the Rakshasa Death Dealers. And there is a morph creature. Den Protector?
Pretty nice. Yes, Den Protector.
It's the only one he's got?
Only one possible. If either of these players play a morph, it is a Den Protector. So Brad starts getting in with this vampire. He may end up making a another vampire token this next turn and have 4 points of flying in the air. He needs a plan. Fortunately, there's not really any sort of great answer in this situation for something like
Neither
Brad.
player in a particular hurry to go. These semifinals are untimed.
Yeah, and
You know.
I mean, they played both of their first games very quickly.
Yes. This game, of course, is the decider here, so you can see that each player taking a little extra time to make sure that they get these plays exactly how they want them. And here's a big attack from Lucas Siao. 3 courses of Krufix all coming into the red zone, as well as the Den Protector.
It's interesting because no matter what here, he's going to get some type of value if he has some sort of instant speed interaction in his hand. He knows that. Brad knows that too.
Brad knows that too, so what he's going to try to do is minimize that.
Yeah, he has to think about the tempo of this game. He has to think about, you know, how many cards are in his hand versus how many cards are in Lucas's. This is complicated. It's important to note that he does have a Den Protector of his own. We flipped up, which I imagine will be the first step of many. It may even end up being a trade with the other Den Protector.
Right, there it is. Den Protector is going to get back Sorin Solemn Visitor, which can, of course, gain Brad Nelson a ton of life on the backswing here, potentially. And it looks like both Death Dealers are going to jump in front of one of the Courser Krufix, and then a Den Protector in front of a Den Protector. This would have Brad taking 5 damage, but if Lucas just passes priority after ordering the Death Dealers, then Brad can just pump up the first one.
Yeah, but then Lucas has an opportunity to blow him out with his speed removal spell.
He can also just let it happen.
That's
I mean,
true.
Look, he just got back Sorin. Letting your creatures die right after you let Sorin die isn't great for you, but good news is Sorin has other abilities anyway. And Lucas doesn't do anything for the turn. I spoke too soon. He's got a Siege Rhino. He does everything for the turn.
Papa Rhinoceros.
Yeah, Big Daddy. So here we go.
And things have flipped pretty quickly here. There's no shortage of power in a card like Siege Rhino. The trample on it really just pushes it over the top for me.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It's offensive.
What is that? We wanted to make it better against Planeswalkers.
Well, you know, it
Right,
is a
R&D.
Rhino.
It is a Rhino. I guess it's hard for a Rhino to not have
if a Rhino
trample
doesn't have
from a
trample,
flavor
what does?
perspective.
Yeah, it's a. You gotta factor in everything here.
Good point.
All right, what do we got? Is it Sorin? It is. All right, Sorin Solemn Visitor hits the table and pluses this time. There will be no Vampire made this turn. So, +1/+L and lifelink to the creatures on Brad Nelson's side. Brad's down to 6 life.
The good news, though, is that you know, all of his guys do have lifelink and +1/+0 from the Sorin, so... Oh, yep, that's it. Never mind.
Wow, and that's going to do it
Yeah.
just like that. Brad Nelson
Lucas
extends
Siao.
the hand, and Lucas Siao's through. Wow, Lucas was just whittling down Brad's board. He had the last removal spell he needed, and Brad immediately extended the hand for a handshake. Congratulations to Lucas for being our first finalist. He might actually be our second finalist. I see an empty chair. Edgar won.
Ooh. Yeah, now this is very interesting.
Won. He is on Dragons here. Now, this is a little bit of a different flavor of Dragons than we've been used to tasting as of late. This is Mardu Dragons.
Yeah, now what's pretty cool about this is that now Edgar does not want to play against Brad. Brad has ultimate prices in the sideboard. Ultimate prices great against Stormbreath Dragons, great against Thunderbreak Region. But Lucas is really cold to cards like Stormbreath Dragon. Lucas, when I was eating lunch with him, that's exactly what he said to me. As long as I can dodge Stormbreath Dragon, I feel like my deck is unbeatable in this tournament. And now here he is in the finals of a Grand Prix. He's won Grand Prix before, so this isn't like, you know, his be-all, end-all, but still.
It's huge.
You know, he made it all the way to the finals, and now end boss.
All right, so we're going to take just a minute while the players get seated and get ready, swap around a little commentators, and we'll be back with the finals here from Toronto. Don't go anywhere.